could be support. I mean, that Black Shield would really kind of implement and complement Severe as well. But obviously, when she goes in with the fast movement speed increase as well as the attack speed, could be pretty aggressive for the side of ESP if that is going to be the case down into the Dragon lane. But they looking to take away the Camille from the side of CPH this time, not wanting that synergy between the Hextech Ultimatum and Galio's Hero's Entrance, which I feel like didn't actually do that well in game one. I think it was all disrupted thanks to the Mokai. But maybe looking to try and change things up is that Xin Zhao.
No, definitely. I think the change in terms of prioritizing the jungle pick this time around for Miho is definitely a big thing. Xin Zhao being one of the strongest junglers, and is very difficult for these ranged champions to kind of deal damage to him because he has his ultimate. You know, Morgana's going to really struggle to kind of deal damage, Severe as well at the same time. So, I mean, Xin Zhao's definitely one of the most difficult champions to deal with. Hecarim being banned again. So, two champions that Esubacz picked are both being banned away this time around. So, they're going to have to come up with a different jungle pick. But again, I kind of like the Spanish sides in terms of the draft as well. I think it's a very strong draft. But I just really like the scaling and the movement speed and the team fight potential the Severe and Morgana bring to the fight.
Yeah, a lot of potential, especially setting it up where before actually even getting into the nitty-gritty part of it, right? Just using the CC from Morgana and then getting Camille to go in with the Hextech Ultimatum. But it looks like they're going to go for the Maokai again. I mean, if any of those picks from last game, I would want ESP to go for again. It would definitely be either the Maokai or the Hecarim. Obviously, Hecarim has been banned, so I feel like going for the Maokai is going to be a lot more oppressive for them for the side of ESP. But they do get the Xayah pick, which was banned in game one for CPH.
Interesting. So we're going to be seeing Heimerdinger mid lane now, most likely, unless we got another spanner in the works and there's another mage pick or another pick here. That means Heimerdinger maybe goes into the top side of the map. But I like this. Heimerdinger being played in mid lane is nice. Fiora. So probably Fiora top. I don't think it's going to be Fiora jungle because that Xin Zhao is being picked. So Fiora top main, definitely more of a standard draft. That's for sure. It's a more standard draft. Kha'Zix is actually going to be the jungler for Esubacz. It's going to be Morgana support, I believe. Oh, no, sorry, Morgana mid. Morgana mid, Maokai support is going to be the option. So we definitely get that kind of power in terms of the mages in the mid lane, the Heimerdinger against the Galio, which is going to be super interesting to see. But overall, it's nice to see some marksman this time around. The Xayah, I think, is going to be very, very good against their comp. You know, you can cancel out Camille's ultimate. You can use your ultimate to kind of cancel out any sort of crowd control from like some Morgana jumping on you. Maokai as well. I think she's a very, very safe AD carry to play.
No, I feel like in this one, on the side of ESP, I feel like the Camille is going to have the main function of trying to shut down Heimerdinger, because if you try and jump on, like you said, the Xayah, she's able to cancel it. If you go one-to-one with Galio, he's going to have the AoE CC come through, and then even trying to catch Fiora and trying to have a 1v1 Fiora. Sometimes it doesn't end well for Camille.
Kind of making that decision, knowing when his ultimate is up and available, knowing when to go in, when to engage, and when to look for the right fight at the right possible time. But we're going to be getting ready here for game number 2. As I mentioned, it is going to be Fiora in the top lane now. So instead of the jungle, that's an early pick already, actually, onto the Galio. Has to use the flash away already. Really get good play again by Esubacz, really catching them off guard.
No, I feel like this is a little bit of a deja vu. I'm pretty sure Galio had to exhaust his flash very early in game 1, right? I feel like this is something I've been seeing. It's either a glitch in the Matrix, or it's very true that Galio, Monaco, has had to be using that flash just to get out, just to kind of make sure that he's able to get out alive without being the fault of first blood, right? Because nobody wants to be that victim. Everybody wants to try and be the victor at getting the first blood, getting that extra bit of gold onto your team. And right now, you can kind of see that Mokai is definitely giving more gravitation to the Dragon lane, just to give more pressure onto Heimerdinger. Because if you think about it, Heimerdinger definitely has the range advantage over the Severe, right?
No, definitely. Yeah, I think they're definitely trying to avoid that 2v2 because Xayah Galio definitely has a lot more kill pressure. And as you mentioned, Xayah has a lot more range and also has a lot more power in terms of the early game. So what they're trying to do at the moment is that Esubacz are trying to rotate away from this Xayah plus the Galio matchup, trying their best to try and allow the Severe to scale, which is the big thing. You want kind of 2 or 3 items. You want to be in the mid and late game with this champion, because as I mentioned, the early game is not the strongest part for Severe. So having that 1v1 in bot lane against a Heimerdinger, which Heimerdinger is not going to have any kill pressure at all, means that the Severe can farm up, get a bunch of gold, get as much farm and XP as possible, and scale into the mid and late game, which is, again, really, really well played from the Esuba, knowing the macro, knowing these kind of matchups in terms of where should we be on the map at the right time. Really kind of shows at the moment that Esuba are a level ahead, and that's why they're 1-0 up at the moment, trying to end this series 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Heimerdinger's putting a lot of pressure down into Severe, into the Dragon Lane, right? She's half health. She tried to get the Honeydew fruit to get back and maybe try and have a little bit of a fighting chance into the team fight, but into the 1v1 fight. But now she's been just whacked back down thanks to the rockets, thanks to just the oppression with the turrets from Heimerdinger. But I also have to give it to the side of CPH that they try and draft the Xayah into the Morgana, into the mid lane, because again, a little bit more, if you do get hit by the CC, it's not going to be as punishing, right? Because the health overall, base health for Xayah is probably going to be a lot more than what it is for Heimerdinger. And trying to escape with Xayah as well, with the movement speed of one of her abilities, she's able to get out. Whereas, like you said, in the beginning part of the stream, we're saying that Heimerdinger is going to be a bit of an issue when it tries to be pinned down on. He has no way to get out of there if his flash is exhausted, right?
No, 100%. I mean, even this game, it's probably a little bit more difficult to get onto the Heimerdinger this time around, to be fair, because, I mean, yes, you have the Camille ultimate. I think if you can follow up the Camille ultimate with the Maokai, it can be very, very difficult. But the likes of Morgana's Dark Binding can actually be blocked by one of the turrets from Heimerdinger. So there are ways in which he can use his turrets to his advantage to kind of block some of the crowd control, which again comes down to little micro play when it gets into the mid and the late game. But for now, it seems like both the teams again are just farming up. We're kind of waiting for that 4-minute mark. We're seeing actually Esuba rotate into the top lane. We saw this in game number 1 as well. Can they do enough? The Galio is actually going to use the ultimate to get in to protect away the Fiora. The taunt comes through, the knock-up as well. The tower shot even came through, and Galio was so close to securing a kill there. Really nice play there from Esuba in terms of the dive, but this Galio pick, this kind of really shows here why this Galio pick is so strong. Anytime an engage comes through, it's so easy for the Galio to just ultimate and just stop the entire engage.
Yeah, I was really hoping there with Esubacz that was able to actually try and formulate that 3v1 gank up into the Baron lane like we saw in the first game, trying to get that first blood once more, but it's really allowed them to open up this Dragon lane. They're able to get that first turret plating, a little bit of gold for themselves, something that Heimerdinger hasn't been able to manage to do for the side of CPH in game 2. But it is going to be about 40 seconds until those two neutral objectives come on the board. It's going to be the Infernal Drake, so maybe a little bit more of a sought-for fight within the teams to try and get this, to try and get that Dragon Soul in this game 2, because that's going to be a lot of damage going over to the likes of the Heimerdinger, the Xayah, if the side of CPH get it. But then it's also going to be a great amount of damage for the likes of the Kazakhs as well as the Morgana, right?
Yeah, I still think it's too difficult to give up the Rift Herald in the end. I still think there's a possibility that both teams are just going to be fighting over the Rift Herald. Saying that, the Kazakhs is a bot side. The Kazakhs is on the opposite side of the map. So maybe, as you said, is right. You know, with the Infernal Dragon giving more damage, they're kind of trading the major objectives. But Kazakhs is taking this by himself for the moment. Maybe there's an opportunity where Kazakhs actually takes this dragon down and maybe even looks to try and rotate to the Herald, which is exactly what's happening right now. There's even a fight happening mid. Kazakhs getting the first blood onto Xayah, which is a big pickoff, but can they get to Herald in time? No, the Mimics do get taken by CPH, but can they escape with their life? The flashes and everything coming through, but you're seeing Xin Zhao's ultimate in the end being enough to disengage and do enough to try and take down these Mimics. So a trade in objectives, but Esuba again securing first blood.
Yeah, I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake there, a little bit of overstepping for Esubacz, because they could have kept the Morgana and the Maokai into the mid lane to stop the Mimics being pushed through in there, and they've already just lost like 2 platings just about, and that's a lot of gold going back over to the side of CPH. It's trying to negate that gold lead that Esubacz been playing and been trying to do all game, and they've done very well at doing that. They was able to get the first blood though, so I feel like that may have been a bit of a trade, but once more the Mimics are really putting pressure onto this T1 into the mid lane, and it's gone.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, that's the power of the Mimics. You get to split up your damage. You're able to get multiple mix on every single champion that's alive when you take them down. And all you have to do is walk up. There's no sort of damage reduction if there's no minions nearby. You can just walk up, deal damage with the mimics to the towers. It's normally enough. This is a trade in the top side. The Maokai ultimate coming through. Fiora has to use the flash to escape. And so does the Galio as well. But the Galio is completely caught off guard. The Zinshaw's trying to counter-engage. The Xayah is here for the backup as well. The Xayah feathers fly. Camille flashes the complete opposite way in the end. With the Galio ultimate coming through, Fiora's trying to carry on the fight. The dash forward, a little bit of extra damage, but the kill in the end going over to CPH. A bit of an overextension there for Esuba, but I don't think Maokai was expecting to go over that wall.
No, yeah, he definitely honed in a little bit too far, a little bit too close.
And he's gone again.
And there we go. Speaking of close for comfort, it is going to be Maokai being the second kill for the side of CPH. Currently 2-1 in the kill lead, and now that goal lead's definitely going over to their favor, right? They are 2k gold ahead. This is where that Esubacz need to kind of make sure that they get some pressure in these lanes. And that's what we can kind of see Bo3 doing down into the Dragon lane, trying to get that T1 down into the farm and just try and get some presence back on the Rift, because right now they are definitely taking the punishment of that T1 in the mid lane. They've lost the T1 up into the Baron as well. So classic CPH from game one, getting some domination on the Rift.
No, I mean, the early game again from CPH is definitely looking very good. They haven't actually forfeited too many kills for the objectives that they've actually taken this time around. So the goal lead is actually a little bit more in favor of them at the moment at this stage of the game. But again, we kind of saw that the mid and late game was a little bit shaky from CPH later on in the game, in the mid and late game. But Esubacz really came online in that mid and late game. Their champions scaled up. They were able to do a lot of damage. This time around, they don't have too much in terms of scaling. They of course have the Severe, which is going to do a lot of damage, but in general the Kha'Zix is going to maybe struggle as the Maokai is getting completely caught out, going to use the ultimate to try and escape, but the dash in from Miha, the damage in the end just being so much. And you're seeing the Xayah, the feathers try to do so much damage, but you see the Severe, the auto attack space, and in the end the extra damage, the extra auto attack range that you get from lethal tempo as well now means that the extra crit damage in the end does go to the Severe, and that's just with one item. Imagine that extra movement speed, imagine that extra auto attack range when you get 2 or 3 items online. This Severe is definitely going to be very scary later on.
I feel like Maokai's death there was definitely a poetic death. He was there getting ignited and run down by fire. He is a tree. He got taken down in the end by that summoner's spell. So it just felt a little bit too poetic not to point out there. But now we're looking at other things to point out. Is the fact that Esubacz actually maybe able to capitalize and basically negate that gold lead onto the side of CPH. They're now 33k each, pretty much neck and neck right now. But I feel like Monaco's Galio in this game too is definitely a lot better, a lot more refined.
No, for sure. I mean, I think even in game number 1 as well, I think was probably being a bit baited too many times by the Camille, because when the Camille goes in, your kind of instant thought as Galio is like, oh, okay, I need to follow up. This time around, you can see he's been a lot more patient with his ultimates. He's actually peeling a lot more for his backline with the Xayah and also the Heimerdinger. It's going to be very important. But with this next dragon now, it's so important at this stage of the game to try and secure this dragon if you're CPH, if you're the Spanish side right now, because Esubacz, if they take this dragon, they'll only be 1 dragon away from that Infernal Soul. And as you mentioned, extra damage that you can get with the Infernal Soul can be so annoying to deal with. The pings are coming on through from CPH, but I think they're too late. They're way too late. The Maokai ultimate used as a zoning tool in the end. They're going to try and catch them out here. They're going to try and block them off from this mid lane tower. The Xayah gets caught by the root. Just seeing the damage, like, look at the boomerangs fly from Severe. That's just 2 auto attacks doing so much damage. And that's 1 dragon away now from Esubacz until they take the soul.
Yeah, I think we have to give props to both the Maokai and the Camille there. Camille able to go that 1v1 against the Fiora up into the Baron lane, just keeping her away from that T2. We saw a lot of pressure, a lot of effort from the side of CPH and Rike, just trying to push and put some pressure there to try and move away Esubacz from that last Drake. But it just wasn't enough, because that zoning from the Maokai really helped them get that neutral objective. I have to say, very well played by Esubacz. It puts them in a very small goal lead. We see the Morgana switch around up to the Baron lane as well to try and take that T1 there. It's not quite going to do it. You don't really want to be going a 1v1 against the Fiora right now, unless you can get that route for the Morgana. But it is going to be Maokai taking a lot of damage here.
Yeah, Maokai taking a lot of damage from the Zaya's auto attacks. In the end, you can see just at the moment a very split map. Both teams trying to get as much of an advantage as possible. The Zaya's find it very, very difficult to try and step up to this minion wave, because if you're caught by one root, by one dark binding, that could be the end of you. That could be the death of you. And both these teams at the moment playing very patiently, very careful at the moment. The Baron is spawning in 10 seconds time. Do Esubacz do the same thing as what they did in game number 1? Do they sneak away the Baron? I think this time around, CPH are going to be a lot more aware of it.
Yeah, I don't think Esubacz definitely have what they need in their kit to try and do it as fast as they did in game 1, because they have the Morgana. I feel like the AoE from Morgana could actually do a lot of damage onto the Herald, but I feel like they don't have as much confidence going into it this time around, because last game they pretty much had it was like F around and find out, right? Let's see if we can take it. And they was able to actually take it from the side of Esubacz, but right now it's going to be Fiora taking that 2v1. Galio coming in a little bit late there with the heroes entrance, and now we see Camille's shield come through. Is going to be able to get away. The dash! And then it's going to be Patris getting the kill onto Monaco.
That's 2 kills now for Esubacz. Do they turn their attentions to this Baron? You see the Kha'Zix at the moment moving from bot lane all the way up into mid. They want to try and clear this mid lane wave though as well, because that mid lane wave is just going to be crashed, and they're going to lose a lot of experience and gold from that mid lane wave pushing in. But you're seeing at the moment that both these teams are trying to go around towards the Baron, but Esubacz want the fight. They know they're at an advantage. They know they're 3 versus 5. The Zinshao just going to use the flash to save, but Heimerdinger is in no man's land. The Kha'Zix jumps in, the Fangs go through, and that's another kill over to Esubacz. However, the Fiora and Galio are back alive. Fast. Is there a possibility that Galio could dash in? But I think it's too late. It's already gone.
Yeah. A little bit too late. It has gone just like Fiora. Gone there. She was there for the moment and gone for the next. And down goes Monaco as well. It's Mia trying to take on a 1v5 whilst we have Viper. And that's going to be a wipeout.
Team ace for Esubacz. It's just like game 1 all over again. The early game lead for CPH, the early objectives, the early towers. But when it comes to this mid and late game, you can see the extra, I guess, resources that Esubacz have, and also just the extra knowledge that they have in these late game team fights where they know where to be on the map at the right times. Like that 2v2 kill in the bottom lane was so huge. It opened up the map so much for Esubacz. They're able to go towards Baron, and they even had the right idea of like, hey, we don't need to risk a 50-50 here. We don't need to risk Miha jumping in, trying to take the smite steal. Let's just kill him. Let's just kill the Xin Zhao. Let's just get him low enough that he needs to go back to base. They did that perfectly. They got a few more kills, and they were like, okay, now's the time to go towards Baron. So just incredible play here from Esubacz, just knowing when to go in, knowing the right opportunities at the right time. And they get rewarded again by the Omega T-Hex, which is going to be doing a lot of damage.
I mean, you saw that Rike went in there, right? But he's going into with a knife in a gunfight, because they look at all the mortal reminders they have. The Executioner's Call in, the Form Mail, so much anti-heal that Fiora's heal-in is not going to have that great potential that she wishes that she thought she had. But then you have the likes of the Divine Sunder coming through for those really high health hero champions like the Galio, right? Just being able to take him out, wipe him down. But I feel like Patris on this Kha'Zix has been really like the shining player for this team for me, especially consistently with the Hecarim performance with Kha'Zix.
What?
But just, yep, we see a lot of damage go through, but the Davari blades, bloodburst there. Just so much going on right now. The T-Hex gets taken down. Nature's Grasp is really going to put CPH into place. It's going to be Severe taking a kill onto Fiora. They are trying to get that crowd control from the Galio, but Monaco is a little bit too lost. Gets taken down by Morgana. Another wipeout. Game 2 goes to Esubacz, taking a 2-0.
Brilliant. And the Czechoslovakian team take down Spain. This is a team that actually made it all the way to the finals last time. We had a Rift Legends battle. It was the same kind of team. It was the same sort of organization that made it all the way through to the finals. But now Esuba have come here to play with a very, very stacked roster. And you're seeing right now the Kha'Zix in the end from Patres, knowing the isolation damage, knowing the range of the isolation, the one shot there from the Kha'Zix was absolutely insane. And extremely well played here by Esuba. Again, the early game still seems a little bit shaky. They do fall up behind ever so slightly during the early game. They just wanted to trade the objectives in terms of dragons and heralds. They were able to take the first 2 dragons. They didn't even need the 3rd dragon in the end, but they were probably going to take it anyway. But just extremely well played in the mid and late game. Again, playing around the objectives very well, winning that 2v2 in bot lane. There's a lot of positive signs, definitely, for these 2 teams.
Yeah, I think there's more positives for the side of Esubacz as well, because not only just because they've won, that's not like, it's not winner's privilege that they get that from me. I feel like they've played very well in game 1 and game 2. I feel like CPH played game 1 better than game 2, especially in terms of domination on the Rift, even though they were able to work their way to the T2s